difference between 80 years ago today with the Holocaust is not so much the nations of the world, it's the Jews. And that brings me to the last thing that I want to talk about. You know, we're living through some difficult times here in Israel, as you know. Some really horrible, terrible times, not only in Israel, but for Jews all over the world. You know, and I guess as an aside, as a parenthetical thing, I really do feel like I have to just mention the Jewish Insider report on Friday afternoon about Miguel Cardona, the education secretary. He had agreed to an urgent meeting with Jewish organizations about the galloping anti-Semitism on U.S. campuses. He agreed to the meeting. They said, you know, after October 7th, we met with you. We asked for a number of things to protect Jewish students. You've done none of the things that we asked you to do. I don't know what they were. I'm just citing what was written in the Jewish Insider report. You've done none of them. We need to have another urgent meeting with you. So he said, okay. The meeting was supposed to take place last Friday. 20 minutes before the meeting, his office informs the Jewish organizations of who's supposed to be participating. So together with the Jewish organizations that are trying to protect Jewish students, that, you know, and believe you me, I'm no big fan of the American Jewish establishment, but they're trying, belatedly albeit, to defend, to protect their children on university campuses. And they want to talk to the Department of Education about why it is, you know, to demand why it is that the civil rights of American Jewish students aren't being defended. So Cardona agrees to this meeting, but he tells them 20 minutes before the meeting is supposed to take place that he's decided to be inclusive. So with all of the Jewish groups, Hillel, ADL, the Federations of North America, the Louis Brandeis Center for Human Rights, and all of these other major groups that this is what they do, you know, for a living. They also invited anti-Zionist groups, ostensibly led by Jews, who are participating in the Hamas riots, the assaults against Jewish students on campuses. So there's like a new group that is a spin-off of If Not Now, one of the groups together with Jewish Voice for Peace, which is run by the Muslim Brotherhood, but whatever, that are active participants in this. So If Not Now has a new group that they put together, led by all the people from If Not Now, called something like the Diaspora Alliance. They have the Nexus Initiative. The Nexus definition of anti-Semitism says that anti-Zionism isn't a form of anti-Semitism. So you have these groups, Trua, Rabbis for Human Rights, which is another anti-Zionist organization of reform and conservative rabbis who hate Israel. So you have these 3 or 4 tiny organizations that don't represent the vast majority of American Jews, over 90% of American Jews who support Israel. And they are brought in by the Secretary of Education to this meeting to talk about anti-Semitism on campus with all of these major Jewish organizations. So a lot of them, the federations, the Louis Brandeis Initiative, the OU, the ADL, they pulled out of the meeting. They said, we're not sitting with them. We're not sitting with the pyromaniac to talk about how to put out a fire. No, siree, Bob. It's a total humiliation. It's bringing the capos in with the Jewish leaders, you know, to talk about the annihilation of the Jews. That's what it is. And so when the administration does things like this, and it's not the first thing that they've done or the last thing that they're going to do, what they're saying is we just don't care about the Jews. We don't care about them at all, like not even a little bit. And so you hear in Israel, they're guaranteeing Hamas's security. They're guaranteeing Iran. They're demonizing Israel. They're enabling the criminalization of the Jewish people, of our army, of our sons, of our state, and, you know, threatening to condemn us at the UN Security Council, green-lighting, purportedly, these ICC investigations, which are complete kangaroo court, you know, turning reality on its head against our leaders. You know, so the one thing that's changed is the Israeli people. You know, opposition leader Yair Lapid, his career before he went into politics was he was a TV host. You know, he looks like a TV host or a car salesman, which I think he also did. He did banking commercials, but whatever. He was a celeb. So here, what did Yair Lapid have this shtick? He had all of it was shtick. It's still all shtick, whatever. But he had a shtick where he said, "What is Israeli to you? What's most Israeli to you?" And it would be things like falafel and, you know, the racquetball game that Israelis play on the beach and all kinds of things like that, right? And a lot of other things. And you want to know what? It's very clear is Israeli. heroism. And I just gave you, I'll leave you with a couple of pictures in your head, right? The quintessentially Israeli thing, right, are our reserve soldiers and their families. It's young families. It's young moms with little kids, right, who drive their husbands to the base to be called up for battle where the entire international community is going to try to demonize him and his comrades and their commanders and the government of Israel, right, for carrying out a necessary battle required for our defense and survival, right? And she brings him there with their little kids in the back seat sleeping, okay? That's quintessentially Israeli. That's heroism. That's her heroism. That's his heroism. That's the heroism of families. And you have other heroism. You have the heroism of the bereaved parents of soldiers who've been killed in this war, who left home, who aren't even giving themselves the chance to grieve for their sons. And they went to Jerusalem, and they erected a tent across from the Prime Minister's office. And they've been there now for over a week, and they declared a hunger strike. They were going to go on a hunger strike until the army went into Rafah. And they said they're not going to leave without victory. Their demand is that their sons didn't die for nothing, that the government keep its commitment to defeat Hamas. That's what it means to be Israeli. What it means to be Israeli is to be the Prime Minister of Israel and stand up to the entire international community, because that's the job of the Prime Minister of Israel. There is no other job, because his job is to defend the people of Israel. It's to defend the Jewish people and to tell the people of the world, we'll stand alone if that's what we have to do. We've changed. Circumstances change. We're not powerless anymore, and we're not going to be powerless again. And, I look at the United States and I look at the Biden administration's mistreatment of Israel, and I know that it doesn't reflect the position of most Americans, but I know it does reflect the position of the Biden administration and an awful lot of people in Congress, on this, particularly on the Democratic side. And Europe, whatever, we're used to that. Their genie's been out of the bottle at least since 2000. But I know I had a wonderful exchange with Colonel John Spencer this week about, he just put out another detailed report showing that Israel isn't breaking any laws, that nobody has ever fought the way that we fight, so morally, with such care for civilians. And he said, I stand with good, I stand with right, I stand with the people of Israel. And like him, I know there are hundreds of millions of people. And we don't feel lonely, but in this international community right now, we are alone. So I am so thankful that the Jews are not in the same circumstances we were in 80 years ago, and that we're an incredibly heroic people. And thankfully, we're led by Netanyahu right now, who's heroic in his leadership. And we'll go forward and we'll fight and we'll win against all odds.